Hey, welcome back to the channel. And let me wish you, first of all, a very happy Valentine's Day from Beneath the Haunted Sky. Um, and I wanted to discuss what I feel is an important topic as it relates to UFOs. And this is something that has quietly been ignored. Um, but I'm going to do a real breakdown of this today. And it is, do UAPs and UFOs exhibit deception? And what does this tell us? And the answer, very simply, is yes. That's the spoiler alert. Yes, they do exhibit deception. But it is amazing how many forms of deception that we can observe if we really pay attention. You know? And this deceptive behavior indicates a conscious knowledge of their presence as an intrusion on our planet. This is also an observable trait of intelligence, awareness. Hmm? Awareness that they have full knowledge. It indicates that they have full knowledge of our surveillance technology and how to circumvent it. They sweep us aside like we're nothing. Um, so, what I want to talk about is what are the types of deception used. One is intrusion, flying over, hovering around populated areas, landing on human property, abducting humans, and violating physical boundaries. This is the purpose of their deception. Yeah. Are for these purposes. They appear to be interested in infiltrating our planet and exploiting its resources with no repercussions whatsoever. And how do they do that? One of the ways is, of course, camouflage. I've seen a metal orb cloak right in front of me, like it disappeared like pixelated smoke right before my eyes. I saw a cloaked triangle. It was trying to disguise itself as a cloud, but I was just sitting there staring at it, and it actually flashed. It flashed its light from underneath, and when it did, it flashed this symbol, and I'll just show it to you. Um, this is what it was, like a triangle with two lightning bolts crossing it, and then in one corner was what I thought is the omega symbol, and the other one it looked like the number one, and I don't know what that means, but that's what I saw underneath the craft. Um, but it did it from a cloaked position. If you read my book, Beneath the Haunted Sky, The Evidence for Alien Abduction, I actually tell you, like, I found a cloaked one once and was bouncing pebbles off of it. Dink, dink. Because I understood at a pretty intuitive level what they were doing and how they were doing it. And they disguised themselves as clouds, as police vehicles. I saw one once disguise itself as the top of a radio tower, like the red beacon light that flashes at the top. And then I saw that light come down to the ground after being up there for a good 15 or 20 minutes. I saw it move and come down to the ground, and the whole time you just think it's the top of a radio tower. Um, One of the other ways is evasion, of course. I've personally witnessed two fighter jets get clowned by a cigar shaped UFO right outside of Wright Pat Air Force Base. I'd argue they have some of the best pilots in the world, and these guys were nothing. They could do nothing. It recognized their presence, it alerted to it, and it took actions to maneuver away from them at speeds and angles which were unmatchable in any way by these fighter jets. And this denotes their knowledge of our capabilities, too. Keep that in mind. This also gives us knowledge of theirs. Their design. Compare the design of the stealth bomber with the edge of this craft I'm going to show you. They're both employing stealth engineering to eliminate or greatly reduce radar signatures. That's the purpose of these shapes. It sends back a much smaller return. And what they seem to have, if you look at the picture of the orange craft, uh, they seem to have a much more refined version which has been employed over the edge of the entire craft. Then there's also the symmetrical asymmetry. Okay, notice the shapes these craft have burned into the ground in these pictures. They represent symmetrical asymmetry. In other words, making two different but balanced versions of the same thing in order to achieve equilibrium while simultaneously defeating radar detection. It would also appear that this quilted appearance, which I have captured many times in these photographs, would also have something to do with absorbing radar, would be my guess. Then we have circumvention. I've personally witnessed these craft come straight down through the atmosphere and fly under 100 feet to avoid radar detection from Wright Pat Air Force Base. I have had craft land in my yard, visually cloaked, but still there, in order to cool off in an area that they will not be found until they reach the ambient temperature and then rise up under radar and travel undetected and unimpeded. They know every single one of our surveillance measures, and they have very simple, kind of low-tech ways of beating them. I mean, they just drop straight down through the radar in a craft that has radar buffering on it. Then they stay under radar detection, and they know that they can catch you with FLIR, so they simply set down in a populated area where FLIR is useless, where they're not going to be looking, which is in a populated area, where their heat's going to blend in with the heat of houses and cars and all these things, until they reach the ambient temperature of the environment, so they can cool off from coming in from the extreme cold of space to the heat of our atmosphere, and the speed at which they have to drop down through the atmosphere in order to evade radar. So they have to cool off, and they do that by sitting in like people like mine's backyards. Look at the photographs, and then they pick up and stay under 100 feet and go where they want to go. One of the other problems is their design. I mean, and the silence that comes along with this ability to sweep aside our surveillance. They do not communicate with authorities in order to arrange clearance for entry into our planet. They don't report to any known jurisdiction and obviously feel no need to do so, since they can effortlessly sweep aside our meager surveillance and our defenses aside. There's no incentive for them to communicate with us. There's no bouncer at the door of the club. You can just walk right in. Yeah. And these violations of our global sovereignty represents a worldwide security problem of the highest order. I think there's no argument there. But more than that, we have a security problem because we have a science problem. Okay? The advanced part of an advanced species speaks to their advanced or higher understanding. We are observing and interacting with an advanced form of technology which completely surpasses our lower understanding. Our lower understanding is based on our relative infancy as a species. We are not beneficiaries of our successes as we are victims of our flaws. One of the failing graces of human psychology is that people will accept what appears to any rational person as an incorrect answer if no better answer presents itself. They'd rather hang on to the wrong answer than to say we don't know. We would rather cling to something broken rather than embrace the void of knowledge until the actual answer presents itself. However understandable, this is detrimental to our species. If we do not let go of the old and broken, we will never make room for something new. This is not even a debatable assertion. Look it. We've had gravity for 360 years. Okay? And what can we do with gravity? Not a damn thing. The only thing we can do with gravity is fight it. And we were doing that long before Newton, Einstein, or Hawking came along. And it is all we are able to do now since they've been here and passed. Gravity, in its current theoretical form, has had its day, my friend. 360 years, and we're still building rockets to fight gravity because we do not understand it. If we understood gravity, we would be able to create demonstrations of that understanding. Just like I said before, we understand electricity, at least at some measurable metric, through our demonstration of the creation, control, and manipulation of electricity. But gravity, we are hopelessly lost. We've given these theories 360 years to pay off. And we see through examples like the Coral Castle in Florida, Boyd Bushman's experiments with magnetism affecting gravity, or the UFO UAPs, which we see operating with impunity, apparently, from humans and physics alike. If it's ever going to be written in a textbook, the writing must first be read on the wall. We are desperately in need of an audit and an overhaul of our field theory in physics. There must be a new lens placed over the eye of physics, or we are doomed to forever stay as nearsighted as we are now. These advanced beings brush us aside as though we are nothing, because they are scientifically and intellectually superior. The learning curve required is impossible to climb at the rate at which it is practical to be of benefit. That's the true biological facts of the matter. However, the necessity of the climb must be addressed, and a sense of urgency in the correct directions are necessary to affect and move the needle in the realm of human intelligence. In other words, although we may not be able to catch up to them in a generation or 20, we must understand that we need to climb that way. And that the way we are doing it now is not getting it done. We are babies who have to learn how to fly. Not walk, not run, fly. We have to learn how to fly. And if we can't, then we're never going to have a bouncer at the door that can keep anybody we want out of the club. And I don't know, but between me and you, that seems like a good policy. When you have a bouncer to keep riffraff out of the club, you have a better club, right? The definition of intelligence in the context of species is the trait of being able to change course based on the compass, not the landmarks. You understand the difference? We have to be able to read the compass and ignore the landmarks. Landmarks can change, can be misinterpreted, can be misunderstood. The compass is what's true. Science has become the landmarks, and they have forgotten about the compass in their pocket. You see, they think because they make a correct prediction that they understand. You can make a correct prediction for the wrong reasons. You can do that. Einstein famously predicted that when the full eclipse would happen, that you'd be able to see the stars that are normally behind the sun and not able to be seen. And he said this was because gravity bends light. And what he predicted came true, and he was fucking wrong. He was just wrong about why it happened, because he could see in the math on a piece of paper, he could read what that curvature is. Right? But his field theory, which needs completely audited and overhauled, was failing him. He did not have the correct field theory. He saw that this would happen, and then he had to come up with a reason for why that would happen. And his reason was that gravity would bend light. Gravity doesn't bend light. It bends space-time. And light just comes along for the ride. You're not bending light. You're bending space-time. Light flows through space-time, and it's just coming along for the ride. Light always thinks it's traveling in a straight line. It doesn't know the difference, even if you do. So we got to have new ideas. I guess is what I'm trying to say. We have to have new ideas. Ideas that are based on the compass, not the landmarks. Well, we can predict this. Oh, I can land something on Mars. I think I understand gravity pretty well. Neil deGrasse Tyson, you horse's ass. But no, you don't understand gravity. Because if you did understand gravity, you would be able to demonstrate that understanding through the creation, manipulation, and control of that fundamental force of physics. When we can do that, when we can create, manipulate, and control gravity, then you can say we understand gravity. Now, how close to that standard are we? Yeah, not even close. Not at all. Not even close. 360 years since the observation of gravity. 360 years later, we're sending rockets up into space. We're putting a man on a firecracker, lighting the fuse, and shooting him off in the air because we don't know the first damn thing about what we consider to be gravity. I mean, we're fighting gravity just as hard as we were in 1665. We found better ways to do it, but we're still doing that. We're still fighting gravity because we don't understand it enough to create it, manipulate it, or control it. We don't know shit. That's basically what I'm trying to say. And we don't understand gravity, and gravity is just the foundational principle for all of physics. That's all. Not important, right? The thing that is the most important, they know the least amount about. Is it time to be scared yet? And to have new ideas. These new ideas must be permitted by the arrogant of the scientific culture who flout their supposed knowledge while demonstrating none of the hallmarks of understanding. Theoretical equations on a page are no match for the actual UFO hovering silently over your head, is it? Physics immediately became disqualified upon the arrival of the extraterrestrial being and its technology on this planet. The act of extraterrestrials simply existing here breaks the rules of relativity and what we know about space-time. According to physics, it should be impossible. Yet here they are. I've met them. So, using deductive reasoning, if you say something is impossible and then it happens right in front of you, do you A, deny it happened so you can avoid fault, or B, change your idea of what is possible? We are obviously and embarrassingly wrong. But it is only embarrassing because we refuse to see it or admit it. You know, UFO UAPs being able to employ deception in order to infiltrate this planet and intrude upon its inhabitants is not just a security problem. It is a technology problem. And at the end of the day, that makes it a science problem. And right now, they are sciencing the hell out of us. Relativity, I'm sorry, let me burst your bubble. Relativity's not going to get this done. It is not getting it done, is it? When their existence and arrival to our planet breaks relativity, then relativity obviously isn't the answer we're looking for. It is not only beyond consideration, it is harshly disqualified based on its complete disapproval in the abstract by the factual reality of extraterrestrial beings. The fact that they are able to conquer the realm of space-time in order to travel untold light years to our planet disqualifies relativity from even being considered as a viable theory upon which to base and found our entire physics. We must also realize that these beings, which have mastery and control over the fundamental forces of physics, and are not challenged by low-level technology like radar or FLIR. Their flight capabilities exceed that of conventional human technology by such an order of magnitude as to make it completely impossible for them to be engaged in a meaningful way. They can shut our technology down, effortlessly exceed our technological capabilities in any medium, and certain species of these extraterrestrials can read your mind. They can get in there and read your mind. So they have us intellectually, technologically, scientifically, and biologically. Now, that is a tall drink of reality, I grant you. But it is completely true. That is the reality of what we're dealing with. We are so far behind the curve right now that it's actually become a liability. Because people like me, people like you, can get taken anytime that they want. They can do anything they want. And there is no one here to step up for us or to stop them. There must be a shakeup of the mainstream scientific cognoscenti. I struggle with that word. And these sacred cows must be tipped over for good. The Neil deGrasse Tysons, who are openly mocking and hostile of the concept of on the topic of UFOs and abductions, must be purged from the scientific realm, sent packing. When we see these craft doing things we deem impossible, it is because of our limited and incorrect interpretation of the interaction of forces. How is this difficult to understand? When you see something happening that you don't think is possible, it is because you don't understand the interaction of the forces at work that you're observing. Simple, right? But what we don't understand is what a gift to be able to see how wrong we are. Before we get to have to go any further down the road, we have the opportunity to recognize the deficit that we possess through the example of its mastery by another advanced species. The obvious assertion is the greatest dread of science to admit, but only because it is born out of ego. They are not seeing the upside to this whole thing. We're able to see what is possible. Look what they can do. We can do that too. We just have to crumple up our shit and throw it in the trash can and start observing them. You know? We can see what these beings can do with their technology and the science that it is based on. And if our science can't make sense of it, then we need to change our science to make sense with the higher order of physics that's being demonstrated in a masterful way. If Neil deGrasse Tyson, or any other physicist for that matter, cannot recognize that this technology is non-human design, of non-human origin, and non-human operation, then they need to be stripped of their science credentials. I'm sorry. If they compare the best science we have with these craft and cannot admit that their capabilities exceed human scientific methods, knowledge, and understanding, then they disqualify themselves from being scientists by refusing to accept the obvious and provable reality of UFO UAPs and the extraterrestrial presence, which has been eternally recorded throughout our history. If they are too uneducated, untrained, or unintelligent to establish an effective baseline, which they can be held to recognize and differentiate between human and non-human technology, then they are of no use to us as scientists. If they need hit with a brick on this subject, just like Joe the bus driver, who has no science training whatsoever, then what use are they? Explain that to me. Make it make sense. Let these people run a car wash or something. But get them out of that lab coat and into a straitjacket immediately. Because keep them away from the test tubes and the science shit, because they're not helping anybody. Scientists whose science cannot recognize more advanced science are of no use to us scientifically. Neil deGrasse Tyson hasn't written a science paper since 2008 and couldn't discover chicken if you locked him in a KFC overnight, this guy. And he's constantly jamming his foot in there, jamming it in nice and tight, because he's made science about him somehow, rather than the facts at hand. He's using science as a vehicle to sell his brand, his books, his lectures. But he's made no scientific discoveries or contributions to science. If Neil deGrasse Tyson and those like him had never been born, science would not have noticed their absence. Let that sink in. He's a personality posing as an intellectual. I, on the other hand, am an intellectual with no personality. But if I ever were to debate Dr. Tyson, my first question to him would be, using the same standards for evidence as you have set for UFOs and alien abductions, please prove the existence of lightning. It'll be like Eminem at the end of 8 Mile. He'll be completely roasted. He'll have nothing to say to me. He won't know how to even answer that, my first question. Before we even get started, this is the warm-up round, he'll be done. Because he'll see his hypocrisy exposed, flayed open for all to see. That you want me to prove that an uncatchable phenomenon exists in a physical way when we have non-physical phenomena that we have proven exists, but we don't accept that same way for the same thing. You understand? It's complete hypocrisy, it's bullshit, and it's arrogance. And I will take him on. And this, I will say this, hello, Neil deGrasse Tyson, hi, big fan. You ever want to debate physics, UFOs, alien abductions, if you want to debate which one's the hotter Spice Girl, whatever it is, I'm down. You come look me up, because when you do, you're going to find you've met your match, my friend. Because we're done with the mansplaining of the science to us. Stop telling me what you know when you can't do shit with it. Now, that's just as real as we can be. Stop telling me you understand gravity till your ass can do something with it. What's wrong with you? That's ego. That's arrogance. And it's time to take that down, because that's what's killing us. And it's stopping our acceptance of the real scientific issues like UFOs, like alien abductions, like the security of our globe. And his kind of arrogance in the mainstream is tainting the minds of people who could be convinced with the rational facts. But he cuts them off because they like his vibe or whatever the hell, you know? And it ain't about that. It ain't about that. You better listen to C-3PO, because I'm going to tell you straight up. Lieutenant Commander Data will tell you the truth. You need to hear me, Captain. You need to hear me out. And when you do, I think you're going to want to change course. And that's what I'm fighting for. And that's why you're here. I know I'm preaching to the choir, but tell me the choir don't like a good sermon every once in a while, huh? So I'm sorry, I've gone on for almost a half an hour now, but I wanted to throw you a really good video. I wanted to talk about some important things. I wanted to put those things together, give some visual references for you to make those connections for yourself. And keep coming back. I want to see you again. And please leave your own comment down below on what you think about this topic and other types of deception that you think that they employ or might be able to employ that I didn't address in this video. So until then, I'll see you at the next one. This is RL Poole. This video was brought to you by Beneath the Haunted Sky, the evidence for alien abduction. Available only on Amazon. And it kicked Neil deGrasse Tyson out of his #1 spot for a little bit. I got to do that. So pick it up and stick it to him. Oh, I'm kidding. I love you guys. I'll see you again soon.